This is Lisa, CEO of Site for Wight, welcoming you to this week's Talking News on Saturday the 20th of August 2022. Well, we have all seen quite a change in weather this week with some welcome rain, although I do feel we do need some more. We have been delighted to welcome Gemma this week as our new finance officer. Gemma works for several other charities on the island and part-time for us, so we're delighted we'll be able to draw on her experiences from her years of work here on the island. As we are closed for activities during August, lots of the staff and volunteers have taken the time to take annual leave and a break away, but those remaining in the building have also taken time to have a really good tidy up. We've cleaned out lots of cupboards, found more donated items which we are able to sell on to people, and we very much hope that when people return in September, they will appreciate and enjoy the changes that we have made. Hoping everybody is feeling safe and happy and well. Lisa, CEO, Site for Wight.
Hello, this is Steve reading a story from Island Echo, headlined, "It's Official, Isle of Wight youngster confirmed as youngest ever FA Cup scorer." 16-year-old Newport player Finn Smith has been officially confirmed by the English Football Association as the youngest ever player to have scored in the world's most prestigious domestic cup competition, the FA Cup. As first reported in Island Echo, Finn came on as a second-half substitute in the FA Cup extra preliminary round against Fleet Spurs on 6th of August and hit the back of the net in his first ever game for the county town club. Christ the King College student Finn had only signed for the Port the day before on his 16th birthday. The Football Association only allow youngsters to play men's football once they have reached the age of 16. It is therefore difficult to see how his record could be broken unless a future player were to score the very same day as signing for a club. The previous record was held by Sean Cato, who was 16 years and 25 days old when he scored in 2011. Island Echo this week spoke to Finn, who is currently spending the summer helping out his father at Tim Knight Roofing, before joining the sixth form at Christ the King College in September. Finn said, "There has been a lot of interest in my becoming the youngest ever FA Cup goal scorer. Loads of people have texted me, and I've also been contacted by the non-league paper. I'll either play for Newport or Brading Town this season, depending on injuries and availability. Newport are struggling with availability at the moment, so I may be travelling to Stoneham to play in the next round on Saturday. It was only intended that I play every now and then for the Port this season. I've been training with Newport for some time, and I've been given lots of good advice from former manager Andy Sampson and Justin Hughes. Newport player Jacob Reynolds has also been very helpful, as has Brading manager Steve Lawton. I support West Ham because my mum Louise comes from Newham. My favourite players are Declan Rice and Kevin De Bruyne. My dream is to become a professional footballer. I'd like to be a playmaker like Kevin De Bruyne. However, if this isn't possible, then I choose to be either a PE teacher or a physio."
Hello, this is an article from the Island Echo read by Sue. First look at Wight Link's refurbished Portsmouth Fastcat terminal. After lengthy delays, Wight Link has finally welcomed passengers to its new Fastcat terminal in Portsmouth, having invested more than £1.5 million in the mainland port. The major improvement project was originally expected to be completed by early April, but it was confirmed in March that it would continue for at least another 3 months, double the original timeframe given. Now, 4 months after that April date, the terminal is in operational use, although the final finishing touches are still to be made. Works began in November last year, when a temporary waiting area was erected at the end of the train platform. Then, at the start of January, the next phase of the work began. This meant that wheelchairs, pushchairs and mobility scooters were unable to use the Portsmouth Harbour Ryde Pier Head service. The scheme has included completely renewing the roof of the passenger waiting area, as the original structure was beyond repair. The terminal has been in use for more than 150 years. Concerns have been raised by islanders in recent months that the Fastcat service might cease to exist in the future with the timetable cut. but the company's investment in the future of the Portsmouth terminal suggests there are no plans to scrap the passenger link between Ryde and Portsmouth anytime soon.
This is Michael reading an article from Island Echo. Increased rockfall risk sees coastal explorers warned to stay away. Visitors to the coast are being urged to stay away from the cliff bases and edges due to an increased risk of rockfalls. The Isle of Wight Council has said people should not underestimate the risks they are taking when they stand on the top of cliffs or walk directly underneath them. In extreme temperatures, the risk of rockfalls along the island's coastline is even greater than usual. Heat causes rock to expand, and particularly during temperature fluctuations, any pre-existing cracks can widen, and new cracks can also form. This makes cliffs potentially more unstable and rockfalls likely to happen. Heavy rainfall forecast this week could also weaken the cliffs, with potential for further rockfalls. The Isle of Wight is famous for its spectacular coastline, which is constantly eroding and moving. This erosion process can be devastating if people are sat underneath them. The island coastline has a number of areas with an increased potential for rockfalls, particularly at Yaverland and along the southwest coast at Brook and Compton. The Coast Guard has issued the following advice for beachgoers. Do not sit under the cliffs. Keep children off the rock falls and mudslides. Keep dogs on leads so they do not go exploring. Do not climb or go near the rock falls for the sake of a selfie. Your life is worth more than a photo. Councillor Jonathan Bacon, Cabinet Member for Coastal Management, said it was important for people to heed the warnings. People come from far and wide to enjoy our coastline, but the beauty hides many dangers. Rocks can and do fall from above without warning, and you will be in danger of getting crushed or trapped. As well as this, if you're walking on the cliff top, you can't see cracks and overhangs beneath you. Chalk, particularly, is very unstable and can crumble without warning. We want everyone to enjoy our beautiful coastline, but to do so safely and be aware of the dangers. Councillor Karen Lucioni, Cabinet Member for Public Protection, has said, rockfalls and landslides are unpredictable and can happen at any time, but we do know which conditions make them more likely, and prolonged hot, dry spells are one of them. We would encourage everyone to stay away from the base of cliffs, and if you are walking along the coast paths, keep well away from the edges. It is easy to enjoy the island's beautiful coast without putting yourself or others at risk. If you or someone else is in difficulty on the coast or at sea, or if you spot what you think may be an unexploded ordnance, then dial 999 and ask for the Coast Guard. Further safety information can be found at https://coastguardsafety.campaign.gov.uk.
This is Petrina reading from Isle of Wight Radio. Monkeypox reaches Isle of Wight. The Isle of Wight has recorded its first cases of monkeypox. It's been confirmed. However, government figures show there are fewer than 5 cases here. Amid talk of vaccine shortages, the council in charge of public health is reassuring islanders there are enough supplies. I wanted to reassure islanders that we have a supply of monkeypox vaccine on the island, which should see us through until additional supplies can be sourced, Councillor Carl Love said. Councillor Love said he is in contact with Director of Public Health for the island, Simon Bryant, and the situation is being closely monitored. He said it was inevitable that this would occur as this virus is spreading throughout the world and UK. We continue to support awareness campaigns about the symptoms and how to assess testing and vaccination for monkeypox. Islanders who suspect they may have the infection are urged to call 111. Councillor Love said, "Please don't just turn up at the hospital, doctors or NHS sexual health services without first warning them of your suspicions." There has recently been a recent surge of monkeypox cases in the UK, but NHS England insists the risk of catching it remains low. Anyone can get it, but most cases have been in men who are gay, bisexual, who have sex with other men, NHS England states. Councillor Love added, "We need the whole island population to pull together and be supportive, as we would be in any other health emergency and outbreak. Please keep talking to your family about staying safe in sexual relationships. A list of symptoms and advice can be found here." Simon Bryant, Director of Public Health at the Isle of Wight Council, said, "While the most recent data suggests the growth of the outbreak has slowed, we continue to see new cases every day nationally. While anyone can get monkeypox, the majority of the monkeypox cases in the UK continue to be in gay, bisexual and other men who have sex with men, with the infection being passed on mainly through close contact in interconnected sexual networks. Vaccination will further strengthen our monkeypox response, and so we urge all those who are eligible for the vaccine to take it up when offered. It will help protect yourself and others you have had close contact with. While the infection is mild for many, it can cause severe symptoms and hospitalization in some. Please remember that the vaccine may not provide complete protection against monkeypox, so it is still important to be alert for the symptoms of monkeypox and call NHS 111 or a sexual health clinic if you develop any. The NHS will provide the vaccine to those eligible, so please wait until you are contacted."
Hello, this is Steve reading a story from Island Echo, headlined BBC One's Caught Red-Handed features break-in at the Castle Inn. A break-in at the Castle Inn in Newport, which saw cash and alcohol stolen from the High Street pub, has been featured on the BBC programme Caught Red-Handed. Situated at the top of the town, the popular Newport pub was targeted on the 17th of August 2021, shortly after 2 a.m, with the newly refurbished function room getting trashed too. The damage to the property was believed to have cost around £600 to repair. Harry Mortram, who was 19 at the time, of George Street in Ryde, was arrested and charged with burglary. He was given a 12-month community order to include 80 hours of unpaid work and was ordered to pay £630 compensation when charged at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court. The popular BBC One daytime show, which is hosted by Dom Littlewood, explores how police and members of the public manage to catch criminals in the act. In the episode, which aired on Monday, co-owner Liam White talks about how they managed to download CCTV footage from inside the pub at the time of the break-in, and how going on to share the image on social media resulted in the arrest of Mortram. In the show, Liam jokingly said, "He was so careful and so cautious, but he didn't wear gloves. I'm not a criminal myself, but I've watched enough films to know that that's pretty standard in Burglary 101. You can watch the episode on BBC iPlayer.
Hello, this is an article from the Island Echo read by Sue. Figures reveal Isle of Wight tourism up just 2% despite staycation boom. Despite hopes that the Isle of Wight would benefit from a post-COVID travel boom, official figures reveal that the island has seen just a 2% increase in visitors in Q2 of 2022, when compared to the same period in 2019. The results, which cover the period between April and June 2022, are the findings of the Tourism South East Research Team on behalf of Visit Isle of Wight, and is the first full comparable survey since 2019, which is from where the direct comparisons can only be drawn from. Overall, the Isle of Wight has seen an overall 2% increase in visitors during Q2 compared to the 2019 results, with 633,155 visitors compared to 623,592 visitors in 2019, using accommodation providers and hospitality venues on the island. The rising cost of living is evidence as visitors' spend has increased by a whopping 45%, with a total of £114 million spent on the Isle of Wight. The average day visitor spend has increased to £33.25 per day, compared to £24.30 just 3 years ago. The average overnight visitor spend per trip was £198.20 per trip, compared to £293.41 per trip in Q2 of 2022, and this value doesn't include ferry travel. Unsurprisingly, the number of visitors by coach has fallen dramatically, from 11% in 2019 to just 3% in 2022, reflecting the accelerated national downturn in coach travel since the pandemic began in March 2020. Will Miles, Managing Director at Visit Isle of Wight, has said, "Whilst these figures are encouraging, we know from incidental reports that some local businesses are already seeing the bite from the national economic downturn." Visit Isle of Wight is committed to ensuring that the island and its businesses are forefront in the minds of visitors. Our autumn and winter marketing campaign launches in the next couple of weeks, and we hope that businesses look out for opportunities to join us in marketing the island with one powerful voice. This September the 11th will see the Isle of Wight's reputation as a cycling mecca recognised nationally and globally when the Tour of Britain's exciting final stage takes place here. I urge businesses and residents to get behind the Tour of Britain and take part in the celebrations, which we hope will have an incredible lasting legacy. With TV crews from ITV4, Eurosport and more, this will be a fantastic opportunity for the island to really shine and encourage not just cyclists to visit, but their friends and family who will inevitably accompany them on their visit to the Isle of Wight.
This is Michael reading an article from Island Echo. Kilshaw pleads guilty to multiple offences after crashing stolen car in Ryde. 41-year-old Daniel Kilshaw, a well-known local thief with over 30 previous convictions, has pleaded guilty to aggravated vehicle taking and dangerous driving and will now go before the Crown Court. As previously reported by Island Echo, police were called to Bettisworth Road in Ryde on Saturday afternoon when a car collided with a wall at the junction with Southfield Gardens. It soon became clear that the black Citroën C2 had been stolen from the Shanklin area the night before. Kilshaw of Fort Street in Sundown was arrested at the scene and taken into custody, where he was later charged with aggravated vehicle taking, dangerous driving, drink driving, driving without a licence and driving without insurance. The prolific offender was remanded and put before Portsmouth Magistrates' Court, where he pleaded guilty to all 5 charges against him. The case has now been sent up to the Crown Court, with Kilshaw further remanded in custody to appear at the Isle of Wight Crown Court for sentencing on the 27th of September.
This is Patrina reading from Island Echo. Island Photo Centre to close Newport store after 32 years. Island Photo Centre has announced that it is to close its Upper St James Street store in Newport after 32 years in business. The Isle of Wight business has confirmed that the doors will close for the last time at the end of the month, with staff and stock moving from Newport to join the firm's other store in Ryde on the 1st September. Free delivery will be offered across the island for those unable to get to Ryde. The business has taken to social media this week to say, "It is sad to be closing Newport, but times have changed and trading has become far more of a challenge recently with problems of stock supply. We'd like to thank all our customers, some of whom have been with us for the full 32 years. Don't worry though, as Chris and Debs will be working in Ryde, where great service will be continued." Island Photo Centre's Ryde store is located at 52 Union Street and is open Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 1700.
Hello, this is Steve reading another story from Island Echo, headlined, "Nice to see you, Tess. Strictly Star pays visit to the Isle of Wight." Strictly Come Dancing host Tess Daly made a visit to the Isle of Wight over the weekend as she made the most of the final days of the heatwave with her daughters. The model and TV presenter, who has co-hosted the hit BBC One show since 2004, enjoyed the views and the tranquility of the coast at Luckham. Husband and fellow presenter Vernon Kay didn't make the trip down from their Buckinghamshire home, leaving Tess and her daughters Amber and Phoebe to soak up the island sun. Taking to her Instagram to post about her weekend away, Tess wrote, "Isle of Wight wandering with my girls."
Hello, this is an article from the Island Echo read by Sue. Fresh bread, anyone? Bakery cum pizzeria to open in Wootton. A former laundrette in Wootton is set for a new slice of life as a bakery cum pizzeria, meaning the smell of clean clothes will be swapped for wafts of fresh bread. Plans have been unveiled to transform the washing facility on Wootton High Street, next to Mediterranean restaurant Sibo, into a bakery and pizza restaurant. The application has been made to the Isle of Wight Council by Paula White to bring the empty commercial building back into use. In documents submitted in favour of the application, planning agent Andrew White said no other food products but bread and pizza would be cooked on the premises. Internally, the current plant room would be converted into a kitchen with preparation and washing up areas and an electric oven. The former laundrette area could be laid out as a restaurant with seats for 20 customers, but also a sale area for bread. The front of the building would undergo a makeover, but marry up with the existing Sibo frontage with matching timber framing and vertical timber board cladding. The agent said the proposal would complement the existing range of services available in the village and add to the vitality and vibrancy in Wootton. It is thought the bakery and pizza restaurant would create 4 jobs.
This is Michael reading from Isle of Wight Radio. Ryde venue takes council to court over late night licence refusal. A Ryde night spot is putting forward its latest bid to stay open until the small hours, as it takes the Isle of Wight Council to court. The case of Harbour House will be heard by the Isle of Wight magistrates as it tries to overturn the decision to deny it an extension to its premises licence. The popular bar and restaurant was looking to stay open, sell alcohol and play music until 1:30 a.m, 7 days a week, and submitted the application to the council in March this year. However, after hearing from concerned neighbours and licensing officers, the licensing committee rejected the extension. In May, Carl Harding from Harbour House told magistrates at the first hearing that the application was misrepresented to the licensing committee. He said the evidence heard at the council's committee was for a separate event run on a temporary event notice, not the current trading licence. The event in question was in July last year for which the venue received a formal written notice with the threat of further enforcement action after causing significant disturbance to residents. The council's committee heard how the event had a base level recorded at a nearby property at 1 a.m. higher than that recorded at the closest residential property to the Isle of Wight festival. The extension to licence would help the business grow and improve facilities for customers, said Mr. Harding. However, the committee felt it had been persuaded by the evidence that no conditions could be applied to mitigate the harm caused. Speaking at the first hearing, Edward Elton, on behalf of the council, said the authority opposed the appeal. Evidence will be heard from both Harbour House and the Isle of Wight Council, and magistrates will determine whether to approve the licence extension or not.
This is Patrina reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Supermarket wars. Lidl and Aldi go head-to-head after Ryde rumours. Discount supermarkets wars have broken out in Ryde after rumours Aldi would take over the threatened Nutric factory led to opposition from a rival. Those rumours appear to have been scuppered as an application to vary the use of the site in Westridge to allow a retail element to the buildings on Cothy Way has now been withdrawn. Among the objectors to the proposal, however, were Aldi's discount supermarket competitor, Lidl, who felt the move was a way of securing a site in Ryde by sleight of hand. In a letter to the Isle of Wight Council by RPS Consulting Services, on behalf of Lidl, they said they believed the request to widen the use of the building was merely a prelude to Nutric leaving the site and selling it for redevelopment for a new retail store. They said Lidl believed there was a need for a store like itself or Aldi in the Ryde area, but was concerned if this was the way Aldi was going to secure a site in the town. RPS said planning policy must be applied fairly and uniformly, and for any large retail development that should mean addressing the sequential and impact tests. But in this instance, none had been submitted. Lidl's representative also argued it was the wrong type of planning permission, so they could not make the changes requested without opening itself up to legal challenge. The future of the Nutric site remains undecided as staff, who are facing redundancy, are being consulted on the manufacturing business's future on the island after proposals were revealed to move production to mainland Europe. A week after the consultation was announced, the application was lodged with the Isle of Wight Council to change the use of the building, which would allow business agility in years to come, says the documents. Nutric was contacted to find out why the application was withdrawn, but said it remained focused on the ongoing consultation process with company personnel and would not make any further announcements until that was complete. An objection to the application has also been submitted by Nettlestill and Seaview Parish Council.
Good morning, my name's Tressa Davey and this is...
Good morning everyone, this is Mike.
Hello, before we start the second part of the Talking News, here is this week's Society News. All our members' activities have now stopped for the August break, and we hope you're enjoying the summer sun while we're sorting out tidying Millbrook, ready for your return in September. Please remember our open day at the First Newport Scout Hall, St John's Road, Newport, on Saturday, September the 10th, between 11 and 3:30pm. We have exhibitors for both the vision and hearing side of the charity. Please call the office for further details.
Open Sight Hampshire's Eye Contact Expo returns after a 3-year break with its new venue, St Mary's Stadium, home to Southampton Football Club. The free-to-attend exhibition brings together equipment suppliers and service providers from across Hampshire to showcase the latest equipment and services available to those with or at risk of sight loss. It is on Wednesday the 28th of September 2022 at 10 a.m. until 4 p.m, where at St Mary's Stadium, Britannia Road, Southampton, Hampshire SO 145FP1F, any member would like to travel across, please contact the office for more details. Please remember to give us a wave on Thursday night in Newport Illuminated Carnival. We are entering following on from our success. If anyone would like to come along and either walk or sit in a minibus, you are very welcome. Just call the office for more details.
And the first news item today is mudslide horror. A desperate plea went out yesterday, Thursday, from Arreton residents to the wider community for help following Wednesday's devastating floods. Brown, sludgy water washed off farm fields opposite houses on Main Road during flash floods at around 5 p.m. on Wednesday. It flooded the road but also ran into gardens and garages. Residents asked for help sweeping up the debris and say no one has been in touch to offer assistance. Alison Cupid said when she got home there was a police van outside her house and it looked like, quote, all hell had broken loose. My bins were all upturned, the garage was 4 inches deep in mud, so my feet just sunk straight in, and we are left on our own to try and clear it up. We've had no offer of help or anything. We have an 83-year-old neighbour who is blind and deaf, and we have to try and help them after we've done ours. Island Roads were clearing up the roads, but we've had to get on with ours, with our property clear-ups ourselves. This is all over Facebook. Clearly the authorities can see what has happened. There has been no preventative measures despite the fact that this was predicted. We're opposite a field with no protection whatsoever, and it was bound to happen. We haven't made an insurance claim yet, but we will have to. But it's just the clear up and the stink and the mess and everything else. I was supposed to be working from home and have had no electricity. It is really stressful. I've only lived here since February, but to see all of my property in this state, I was up to my ankles in mud trying to lift the bins up where we were sitting ducks. Jade Crawley said there should be ditches and adequate drainage. She said it's exhausting work clearing the mud. My body has been shaking because I've been digging constantly. I've been up since 6 a.m. digging and I have not stopped. It's so heavy. It was absolutely terrifying watching it all come in, but it was just like a running waterfall. It beat the gate open and there was nothing I could do, and I thought I should close it, but the power of the water would have kept it open. I cannot sit and cry about this. We just have to get on with it. There really needs to be something done. It could cause accidents on the road. It was really awful. Jane Watley, 83, said, it's absolutely gushing down. It burst the bolt off the gate and the gas cylinder went down. The 2 bins were jammed down, but the neighbours came out and got them. I tried to shovel, tried to do a bit of the garage as I want to get up tomorrow, but I don't know if I will.
And trail tells of Uffa's links to Sea Scouts. As part of the Uffa Fox 50 UF50 festival this weekend, Cows Heritage and Community Group CHCG is one of 6 Cows and 2 East Cows groups who will open their doors to the public between now and Sunday to form a trail to commemorate the life of Uffa Fox, who died 50 years ago. Barry Groves of CHCG writes, while Uffa was mainly recognised as an award-winning sailor and groundbreaking yacht designer, receiving a CBE and becoming an RDI, that's Royal Designer in Industry, he also became a celebrity in his lifetime. He was famous for his antics and sense of humour, culminating an appearance on the television show This Is Your culminating in an appearance on the television show This Is Your Life. He was also heavily involved in the local Sea Scouts and trying to get young people more connected with the sea. The Cows Heritage and Community Group, based at the Beckford Centre opposite Cows Library, will focus on Uffa Fox's scouting days with an exhibition featuring his exploits in his teenage years and subsequently as a scout leader. It will also feature an account transcribed from Uffa's own handwriting of his infamous boat trip up the River Seine with a group of scouts, which made headlines in the national press. Also on display will be original flag from the first Cows troop, the Viscountess Gort's own, dating back to June the 6th, 1913, the year that Sea Scouting began. The Beckford Centre at 5 Beckford Road, Cows, will be open from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. today, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. For more information about the UF50 Festival, which celebrates the life of Uffa Fox, see the website at uf50.org. A game-changing Uffa Fox yacht is for sale at UF50 event. Yesterday, today and throughout the weekend, Cows will be a showcase for the town's most famous and prolific boat designer, Uffa Fox, who lived from 1898 until 1972. During the UF50 festival, for 4 days, celebrations of Uffa's extraordinary design career will take place ashore and afloat, with racing along the green in Cows and off the Schrape in East Cows today, Friday, and tomorrow. There is also an extraordinary range of displays and representations throughout the town at venues including the Classic Boat Museum, the Commodore's House, Shepherd's Marina, the Sir Max Aitken Museum, and a sprawling static display of the designer's dinghies and larger boats on the parade in Cows. It is on Cows Parade, 34-foot 6-inch Vigilant, the Uffa Fox built yacht that led to a quantum shift in worldwide offshore yacht design, can be viewed and bought. Designed and built by Uffa Fox in Cows, Vigilant was launched in early 1930, and as owner, Uffa soon sailed her to Sweden for a summer season of racing regattas. It was, however, the return journey to the island and a fierce North Sea storm that triggered a major change in offshore yacht design. At a time when offshore yachts were slab-sided, heavy, often overbuilt, and with prodigious internal volume, taking on a blue water gale in a slender, needle-nosed, ultra-light boat with around 3 meters of overhang, forward and aft, and barely any freeboard, such as Vigilant, would be generally regarded as foolhardy at best. For Uffa, though, the way Vigilant handled the rolling mountains of green water and hammer blasts of the North Sea storm confirmed his personal design view and ultimately influenced the evolution of offshore yacht design. He wrote afterwards, "She is just what you need for the rough waters found along the British coast. The volume in the ends of the boat makes it rise lightly and elegantly like a sea swallow over the waves." Uffa Fox successfully promoted design shift in Germany and America, and with his books widely read throughout the British Commonwealth, slender, elegant, light and fast boats began to appear in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa and beyond. Vigilant was partly restored in the early 1970s, then laid up in 1975 until she was rediscovered in Norfolk and underwent an extensive restoration in 1990 to 94, returning her to near original condition. In recent years, Vigilant returned to the island for racing and cruising from her base in Yarmouth and underwent significant work at the Elephant Boatyard, Bursledon. Vigilant is an immaculate condition and race ready. Vigilant specifications are as follows: Allo 8 34 foot 6 inches, that's 10.51 of meters. LWL is 25 foot 6, which is 7.77 meters. A beam is 6 foot 4, which is 1.93 meters. Draft 4 foot 3, which is 1.29 meters. Displacement 2 tons. Sail area 236 square feet. Launched 1930. Designer builder Uffa Fox. For more information, contact Carol Toletsky by email, carol@designstuffuck.com, and Design Stuffuck is spelled DESIGNSTUFFUK.
And the next news item is an article by Emily Penning, and the headline is Cowles Boy to Face Trial on Terrorism Charges. A 15-year-old boy is to go on trial in the spring accused of plotting a terror attack after allegedly researching the Isle of Wight festival as a potential target. The teenager from Cowles is charged with preparation of terrorism acts under Section 5 of the Terrorism Act 2006. It's claimed that he developed an interest in extreme Islam and supported IS ideology. He was allegedly researching the Isle of Wight festival as a potential target. The music festival held on the island between June the 16th and the 19th, which was attended by around 90,000 people and featured acts including Lewis Capaldi and Kasabian. The youth is said to have looked at weapons including firearms, vehicles and a stab vest. He is also alleged to have obtained a knife and written notes, including a martyrdom note entitled "To My Family." The defendant allegedly had a knife in his rucksack when he was arrested by counter-terrorism police on July the 11th. Officers had received a tip-off from the FBI that he was allegedly planning to attack a non-believer who he thought had insulted Islam. He was charged on Sunday, July the 17th, and made his first appearance at the Old Bailey on Thursday. Wearing a grey sweatshirt and black trousers, the boy confirmed his identity by video link from youth detention. At the start of the hearing, Mr Justice Sweeney thanked Rossano Scamaldrella. At the start of the hearing, Mr Justice Sweeney thanked Rossano Scamaldella, QC, for attending despite the defence lawyer's industrial action and because of the defendant's age. The judge told him the court would like to thank Mr Scamardella, QC, for representing the defendant for the best possible reasons, given his age and the potential injustice that may have arisen were he unrepresented. He went on to set a time for the case with a 3-week trial from April the 18th next year at Winchester Crown Court. A plea hearing will take place on November the 4th, he said. The defendant, who cannot be identified given his age, was further remanded.
Look who is coming to Newport FC's site. A third national chain has unveiled plans to move into the new St George's Retail Park on the outskirts of Newport once it is built. Joining Costa and McDonald's, Aldi has been the latest to announce where it will be coming to next on the Isle of Wight. It will be the discount supermarket third store on the island, with others already on Cowes and Lake. The news has been confirmed through the licence application to the Isle of Wight Council, where the supermarket giant is seeking permission to sell alcohol. If the licence is approved, it would allow the shop to sell alcohol to customers for all the hours it is proposed to be open, which is 6 a.m. until midnight, Monday to Sunday. Documents submitted as part of the application are asking for the licence to start from September the 8th, despite the store not being built yet. The second round of planning permission for the St George's Retail Park was approved earlier this year, following changes to the designs, which saw the addition of the Costa drive-through and the shrinking in overall retail floor space. During the discussions, South Coast Leisure, the developers behind the scheme, said all but one of the units had a tenant lined up. Unit 3, which is the one Aldi would be inhabiting, had always been rumoured to hold the store as it had been earmarked for a limited assortment discounter food store. Plans for a retail park on the former home of Newport Football Club have been in the works for years, with designs first unveiled in 2018. Now, 4 years later, preliminary work has started at the football's new ground near the racecourse roundabout in Whippingham, but final planning conditions are waiting to be discharged before building work can start. It has been required by the Isle of Wight Council that the football ground is available to use before the retail units can be brought into use. Costa has also recently submitted a planning application to finalise the look of their outlet. The concept has been criticised by Matt Sprouls, owner of local cafe chain Commie Coffee UK, who said, in an objection to the council with concerns over the cost of parking and traffic congestion in Newport already, the drive-through offer would give customers an easier option to grab refreshments instead of trying to support a local coffee shop.
And the next item is by Louise Hill, who is the BBC's local democracy reporter. And the headline is, "Agreement means families can move into new homes." After months of delays, it's good news as moving day looms closer at Bransdone Farm. More than 40 affordable houses are being issued. More than 40 affordable homes are being built in Newchurch, but construction issues caused setbacks. Another problem is planning permission conditions around highway junctions, footpaths and speed limits. However, despite an application to legally vary the planning permission to allow families to move in as soon as possible, talks behind the scenes between Vectis Housing and the Isle of Wight Council have proved fruitful. Martin Pearl, Vectis Housing Chief Executive, said an agreement had been reached with the council that the new housing at Bransdon can be occupied once the works have been completed. He said the planning authority has confirmed that while planning conditions require detail of highway works and access to be agreed prior to the occupation of housings, in this case the occupation of the housing and business units should not be delayed while the final details are resolved. Mr Pearl said all building work has been completed, but utilities need to be connected before families could move in, which he hoped would be in September. One of the biggest hold-ups has been the need to complete highways works outside the main summer holiday period, which could not start until October the 1st. It was previously said in planning documents that the 10-week construction timeframe would mean families would not be able to move in until December. The application to vary conditions was submitted last month, despite talks, but will still need to be determined by the Isle of Wight Council.
Man's shock at no meat in vegan eatery. A God's Hill vegan restaurant owner has delivered a biting riposte in response to terse review of its menu options. Reviewer Will Hammond gave Tansy Pantry just a single star on Google reviews, bemoaning a perceived lack of food provision for meat eaters. The popular vegan eatery pointed out all its menu options were suitable for meat eaters, because, indeed, meat eaters are not defined by eating just meat. Tansy's Pantry suggested the customer head on over to a certain restaurant in Ventnor instead, which would welcome him with open arms. This is no doubt a nod to the kitchen at London House, found on the High Street, which recently went viral for defending its decision to not cater for vegans. London House said it had catered for vegans in the past, offering vegan cream teas and special vegan bacon, but said it stopped because it got fed up with the arrogant, holier-than-thou attitude. "Hi Will," wrote Tansy Pantry. "Firstly, thank you for taking the time to review us. However, judging by your blanket reviews of all the Isle of Wight vegan businesses, would hazard a guess that you haven't actually set foot in our restaurant. Secondly, I hope you find it hilarious, as we certainly did. Thirdly, all of our food is suitable for meat eaters, and our varied open-minded customer base proves that. To this day, not one meat eater has died or suffered a reaction as a result of eating our food, to the best of our knowledge, of course. We suggest that you head to a certain restaurant in Ventnor, who will welcome you with open arms, as we would have done before this stunning 1-star review."
And the next item is by Laurie Little, where an inquest hears how a prison worker took his own life. The headline is "Corruption Claims Took a Terrible Toll." A prison worker who took his own life after being accused by inmates of corruption over and over again has been exonerated of wrongdoings at an inquest. Matthew Law was just 29 when he hanged himself on the Parkhurst wing of HMP Isle of Wight on December the 16th, 2019. He had suffered from depression and anxiety and took periods of sick leave. The former prison officer had scaled his work down to operational support grade level, seeking less pressure. On the day it became too much, he sent a message full of sorry statements to his fiancée, Jules Buckland, and it would never be known if he read her desperate replies. He was found unresponsive and couldn't be revived. Colleagues carried out CPR, but to no avail. A jury inquest held that at the Isle of Wight Coroner's Court recorded a conclusion of suicide. Mr. Law had been physically healthy and had no drugs or alcohol detected in his body. He had followed his father into the prison service, joining HMP Isle of Wight in 2015. The first allegation of corruption was levelled against him in 2017, and so began many periods of sick leave due to stress. He had 47 allegations of corruption levelled against him by prisoners, included 15 after he died. Only one low-level breach was proved because he did some photocopying for an inmate and didn't follow protocol. Mr. Law was desperate not to work on a particular unit and suffered stress due to a problem with his knees, brought about due to control and restraint activity, but was too young to be considered for surgery. He was desperate to work as a prison officer again and see if he could handle the wings, but there was a question mark over his resilience to cope with the job, which Coroner Caroline Summery said was not for the faint-hearted. Mr. Law was allowed to spend long periods on restricted duties and had long sick absences. Mrs. Summery said corruption was such a dirty word, but the allegations had little foundation in anything credible. She told the jury it must have been difficult for him. Rumours were swirling, but it was all froth and bubbles. Mr. Law's father expressed relief that his son had been publicly exonerated from all allegations.
Drink Drive campaign launched. A summer drink drive campaign has been launched. Until August the 28th, police officers will be out in force across Hampshire, Thames Valley and the island. Those behind the operation are asking us how we are getting home from parties, barbecues and days at the beach where alcohol has been consumed. The advice is to prepare a book a taxi, use public transport or have a designated driver. If someone is driving after drinking or taking drugs, we are told to call 999 in an emergency or 101 with information. The Force says alcohol and drugs stop you being able to drive safely, including your ability to react to situations. Drink and drug drivers are at increased danger of being killed or seriously injured on our roads, the Force said.
And the next article is by Laurie Little, and the headline is New Warning Over Cliff Falls. People are being urged to stay away from cliff bases and edges due to an increased risk of rock falls. The Isle of Wight Council has issued warnings saying people should not underestimate the risks they are taking when they stand on top of cliffs or walk directly beneath them. In extreme temperatures, the risk of rock falls along the island coastline is greater than usual. Heat causes rocks to expand, and particularly during temperature fluctuations, any pre-existing cracks can widen and new cracks can also form. This makes cliffs potentially more unstable as rockfalls are more likely to happen. Heavy rainfall forecast this week could also weaken the cliffs with potential for further rockfalls. Councillor Karen Lucioni, Cabinet Minister for Public Protection, said, "We would encourage everyone to stay away from the base of cliffs, and if you are walking along coastal paths, please keep well away from the edges. It's easy to enjoy the island's beautiful coast without putting yourself at risk." The island's coastline has a number of areas with increased potential for rockfalls, particularly at Yaverland and along the southwest coast at Brook and Compton. The Coast Guard has issued the following advice to beachgoers. 1. Do not sit under cliffs. 2. Keep children off the rockfalls and mudslides. 3. Keep dogs on leads so they do not go exploring. And 4. Do not climb or go near rockfalls for the sake of a selfie. Your life is worth more than a photo.
Former pub set to be turned into flats. A former pub and hotel in Bembridge could be demolished and flats built in its place. The Raffles Tavern building at Steen Road was last used as a dormitory for the Kingswood Outdoor Activity Centre, but has been empty for the last 2 years. The property was sold earlier this year, and now new owners, Ronema Limited, a Winchester-based company, is looking to redevelop the site into 11 two-bed flats across 3 floors. In documents submitted to the Isle of Wight Council, planning agent Phil Salmon said the building was in a relatively poor state of repair and in need of comprehensive refurbishment with damp issues, very poor insulation and inefficient heating systems. The building is also said to be poorly laid out, with all the issues combined equating to the argument it is considered neither to be desirable nor financially sustainable to retain the building, the agent said. The planning statement says the site offices and offers an opportunity to promote a sustainable residential scheme on a brownfield site which, once approved, could be built quickly. You can view the plans, which serial number is 22/01334/FUL, on the Council's planning register. Comments can be submitted until September the 5th. One objection has so far been submitted by a neighbour who said they were incredibly disheartened to see another development planned in the area as more and more residential properties have been crammed into every square inch of land. They say the flats on the top 2 floors would overlook neighbours, with the balcony proposed for the top flat very intrusive. The infrastructure was insufficient in and around Bembridge, they said, which would be negatively impacted due to the additional pressure the development would have.
And the next article is entitled Second Safe Haven Opens for Adults. Out of hours mental health crisis support is now available to adults in Ryde as well as in Newport. Run by Two Saints Limited, the ride Safe Haven service will operate as a pilot project until March and is based in the Town Hall on Lint Street between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. on Fridays, and Saturdays and Sundays from 1 p.m. till 9 p.m. A similar centre opened in Newport 3 years ago has supported more than 650 people in the past year. Support can be accessed by telephone and email or face-to-face in the evenings, at weekends and on bank holidays. You do not need to be referred to use it.
HTP apprentices mark the big day. An Island Apprenticeship College welcomed graduates and guests to celebrate the achievements of its apprentices at their 2022 graduation ceremony at the end of July. HTP Apprenticeship College greeted learners, family and friends from up both sides of the Solent to attend the event for the higher level apprentices at Medina Theatre. More than 80 of HTP's former apprentices donned their caps and gowns to receive their awards from the college, and Chief Executive Rachel Randall. Their certificates marked the completion of their higher apprenticeship studies at levels 4 and 5. These apprenticeships were accomplished with the support of their employers from a wide range of sectors, including the island's NHS Trust, White Fibre and GKN Aerospace. The island's Lord Lieutenant Susie Sheldon delivered the keynote speech congratulating graduates and praising their commitment to learning. She said, "I am really impressed with what you have all achieved in very difficult times. You have all worked incredibly hard, making your studies fit into your lives and by taking the opportunities on offer. Be proud of your achievements, and I would urge you to always continue learning and gaining knowledge. Be your own self and choose the right way for you. I congratulate you all and wish you the best for your future." Mrs. Randall said, "You have all shown great resilience in completing your qualifications. Some of you managed to do so while on furlough, others whilst working on the front line. You have all achieved great success whilst doing a real job with busy home lives and families. Some of you have waited a while for this moment, and I'm so glad we can all celebrate together today."
And the next article is by Louise Hill, who is the local democracy reporter. And the headline is £138,000 salary for council boss. How should the Isle of Wight Council recruit its new £138,000 top boss? That's the question councillors will now have to decide. It follows the green light for officers to recruit a new chief executive to the authority 4 months after its previous holder left. John Metcalfe, the former chief executive, left at the end of March and has taken up the same role at Cumbria County Council. Since Mr. Metcalfe left, the Assistant Chief Executive and Director of Strategy, Wenda Pereira, has stepped up as Interim Chief Executive. The Council says, given the continued challenge for local government, including levelling up agenda, continued impact of COVID and economic uncertainty, it is imperative to have a stable strategic leadership in place. There are 2 recruitment options for the Council Appointments and Employment Committee to consider following a meeting earlier this week, to either use the authority's internal communications team or hire external marketing specialists in a bid to attract more applicants. It comes after the recruitment of the Director of Adult Social Care only received 2 candidates, with one eventually dropping out. The price of using the specialists who are already employed by another part of the council to attract candidates would be £11,700. The company would build a microsite with information and videos about what makes the island great and what the role would entail. Members of the committee questioned the added expense for senior management positions already being tight and were worried the campaign would not pay off. Councillors felt they did not have enough information about the reach a campaign like that might achieve, so could not make a decision at that meeting. They did agree, though, to start the recruitment process and with the position advertised throughout September. The successful candidate would be on a yearly salary of just over £138,000, which the council says has been determined through market testing. And now we're going to look at some a section called Wight Memories and Nostalgia. And the first one we're going to look at is a memory of the first flight of Princess Flying Boat, which is to be marked in a one-day exhibition. On Monday, Cowes Heritage and Community Group, the CHCG, will celebrate the 70th anniversary of the first flight of the Saunders Rose Princess Flying Boat, the largest metal seaplane in the world, writes Barry Groves of the CHCG. The Beckford Centre at 5 Beckford Row, Cowes, will house a one-day exhibition featuring many images of the design, construction and flying of the Princess Flying Boat and other ephemera. The Columbine Shed is also to be celebrated, where the flying boat was built. The centre will be open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and admission is free, although a contribution would be appreciated. The Princess unintentionally took off at 12:28 while on trials. The crew included several local men and the flying boat flew over 90 hours on test flights, including twice round Britain. The Columbine Shed at East Cowes was constructed in 1935 as the RAF urgently needed new planes. Built by Bolton and Paul Limited, the Columbine Shed covers 550,000 square feet. And the shed still has the Art Deco features from that period. Several old workshop houses and even roads disappeared forever beneath a Columbine Shed. And without the Columbine Shed, wartime production of planes would have been much reduced. Hundreds of planes were built here. The shed survived bombs and that were aimed at it, and after 1945 production included many innovative designs such as the first jet seaplane SRA-1, affectionately known as the Squirt, which first flew in July 1947. The SR-45 Princess was so large the tail wings had to be completed on the slipway. To get her out of the harbour, men had to stand on the end of one wing to make the other lift up and over the breakwater. Plans had been drawn up for her in 1946 when people thought seaplane travel would resume, as it had been so popular in the 1930s. But by 1952, major airlines no longer required seaplanes. 3 Princess planes were built, but only 1 flew. All were mothballed in West Cowes and eventually broken up. Next, the Columbine Shed was home to the SR-53 fighter plane, which had rocket and jet engines. It was ahead of any rivals in 1957, but the government decided to cancel the project in favour of guided missiles. More than 20 rockets were built in East Cowes before the government scrapped that project too. The first hovercraft was designed and built in the Columbine Shed in 1959. The SR-4N hovercraft, known as Mountbatten class, was stretched there and still in use until 2000 on the cross-channel service. The vast concrete floor moves slightly with the tide. This makes setting up a level of construction for any large item rather difficult. Recently, Columbine Shed has seen the construction of blades for wind turbines, housed Dame Ellen MacArthur's trimaran, and is now used by Wight Shipyard. The largest Union flag in the world was painted at the doors in 1977 for Queen Elizabeth's Silver Jubilee. And the Columbine Shed is 87 years old now. It's on the island list, but is not nationally listed. Should it be? The building could tell so many stories of innovative design and skillful work. And Barry would like to thank the Isle of Wight Society for permission to use some of its material. And the next item today is where we look at people's views, and a panel of columnists take it in turns to give their take on life as it's played out on the Isle of Wight. And the next item is by Laurie Little. The headline is MPs should see a different side to the Isle of Wight, and there's a picture of Rishi Sunak being interviewed by Laurie Little. The Isle of Wight is the largest constituency in the country and a Tory stronghold at that. So it came as no surprise that both Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak made a beeline to cross the Solent in their quest for votes from party members. They spoke to around 200 Isle of Wight Conservative Party members, presumably telling them the island would benefit in a multitude of ways if they were Prime Minister, without signing any actual island deal as proof. Certainly when I met Mr Sunak, no interview with Miss Truss, he was careful not to make any promises he couldn't keep. This left me pondering which was worse, Boris's mythical island deal pledge left unfulfilled, or Rishi's reluctance to commit them off, sigh. The Conservatives missed a trick when inviting them over. If indeed they really wanted to make a case for an island deal, why only show them successful businesses and plush venues? Mr Sunak visited Cowes during its busiest week of the year, even coinciding with the royal visit and Spitfire display. Our visitors must have left thinking the island was wonderful. It is, of course, but without realising the scale of the real issue that the residents face. Here's what I would have shown them. Firstly, I would have got them over with the morning commuters via Red Funnel on one of the many strike days. Other ferry operators are available. In the interest of this project, let's go with the one making the headline when it comes to inconveniencing passengers, though. Our visitors could queue with the commuters to talk about the real-life effects of the service. No use sitting up front with the captain just enjoying the view. I would take them to Sandown and ask why a beautiful bay is blighted by derelict hotels, abandoned and by neglectful owners. Surely more could be done to engender some social responsibility. Then we could travel down Newport High Street to question why there are so many empty business premises. And Mike will continue with this article.
For lunch, we could pop to the Better Days Cafe in Ventnor. It's a new initiative which gives people the chance to volunteer, try out the world of work, be signposted towards services, and gain confidence. The cafe is pledging to be a hub to keep people warm in the winter if they can't afford to heat their homes. Afterwards, we would head to one of the caravan parks, where not only our tourists enjoyed their summer holidays, but many local families have been forced to reside because they can't find any other affordable accommodation. A quick swing by St Mary's Hospital will be interesting too, to see the illuminated board outside, which shows how long the wait time is. At the time of Mr Sunak and Ms Truss's visits, St Mary's was in the midst of a critical incident with 71 patients stuck there, unable to be discharged because there was no social care available in the community. Let's pop to the Footprint Trust to talk about how people are coping with the crippling energy costs and see what the experts there have to say about how ordinary families and indeed businesses will cope with this sudden change to finances. To send our visitors back to London with a final memory of the island's unique problems, I will wait until very, very late at night, say 9 p.m, and see if there was a quick passenger route available across the Solent from Ryde. Apparently, there's no demand. Back to Cowes it would have to be, with Red Funnel to the rescue. If any prospective Prime Minister would like to take me up on my island tour, my DMs are open.
And the next item is to give you some information about just to give you some public information. So this particular one is about staying safe. And as ever, the Isle of Wight Council is receiving lots of messages about scams from concerned islanders. Sally Ash, Fair Trading Officer for the Council, offers the following advice. So, what do I do with a scam? Number 1, scam emails can be forwarded to report@fishing.gov.uk. That's report@fishing.gov.uk. And phishing in this case is spelt PHISHING. Number 2, if you receive a scam call purporting to be your bank, you can call 159 to verify it really was your bank or if it was a scammer. If you receive a scam text, this can be forwarded to 7726. If you receive a call and are unsure of the caller, you can go to Who Called Me website and put the number in, and it will tell you if this is a trusted number or a scam. To verify an email, click on the sender's email address. If it was a scam, it will usually be a made-up address and won't be connected to the company they are purported to be. So, secondly, how do I block scam calls? If you are a Wight, Fibre, SkyTalk or TalkTalk companies, they all offer free call blocking service. You just need to contact them to set this up. You can purchase phones that block scam calls and allow through calls from friends and families that are sorted in the memory. There are call blocking units which can be purchased online or from reputable traders. For further advice around call blocking, email trading standards at isleofwight.gov.uk. I'll repeat that. So for further advice around call blocking, the email address is trading.standards@iow.gov.uk. And finally, reporting a scam. For advice on scam calls, Citizens Advice Consumer Helpline is 0808 250 5050. So I'll repeat that. It's the Citizens Advice Consumer Helpline, which is 0808 250 5050. And to report a scam call to Action Fraud, you call 0300 123 20240. And I'll repeat that. Action call 0300 123 2040. And if you're concerned about somebody you care about, or for more information on scams, visit www.iwasp.org.uk, and I'll spell that for you. www.iwasp.org.uk. And the next item, Mike's going to tell us about what's on in the Isle of Wight.
Well, the first thing that's on is the Isle of Wight Jazz Weekend is back. So we're all very pleased about that, I'm sure. The annual Isle of Wight Jazz Weekend is set to make a welcome return after the pandemic and will take place next month between September the 15th and September the 18th. Event director Jim Thorne said, "I'm very pleased that we are able to return with such an exciting lineup. For their 10th year, Jim has put together a superb selection of the best of British jazz. Alongside weekend favourites, Leanne Carroll and Alan Barnes, the lineup includes an opening concert by young Islander Cameron Rossi, who is destined to become one of the jazz greats of the future. Sarah Dowling makes a welcome return. She wowed audiences when she first appeared here in 2018. Trad fans are also in for a treat with It's Trad Dad, featuring graduates from the bands of bilk, ball and barber. There will also be a fringe at various locations around the town. Jim warned, tickets are selling, so buy now as many events are earmarked to sell out. To find out more and find out the full lineup visits, go to iwjw.co.uk, where you can also buy tickets. Lionel Bart's iconic show needs little introduction. The Apollo Theatre is delighted to be bringing you a production of the musical dramatisation of Charles Dickens' story about the orphan boy who wanted more. The show runs from August the 19th until the 27th. Tickets are £10. Students and unemployed people are £5. The box office telephone number is 210010.
And there's an over 60s tea and chat. You can meet people and have a good cuppa and a good old natter at the very friendly Lord Louis Library Tea and Chat Group for the over 60s. Next Monday, August the 22nd, then every other Monday between 10:30 and 12 p.m. And finally, there's a teen epilepsy cafe, which there is to be sorry. There is to be a teen epilepsy cafe at Richmond's on Bath Road in Cowes at 6:30 every Thursday. The aim is to create a social space for teenagers with epilepsy to meet, chat, listen to music in a relaxed and supported space. Refreshments are provided and it's free to attend. Just turn up or call Caroline on 07808 860 952 for more information. And I'll just repeat that number. It's Caroline on 07808 860 952. And now Mike and I will read some letters from the public.
Time for change. This is from Chrissy Saunders of Ryde. I was so pleased to read Richard Wright's comment on the water companies' lack of action over the years, rebuilding new reservoirs and desalination plants, as well as the amount of water wasted through leaky pipes. Having lived in a desert country with a coastline and holidayed in the Canary Islands, I have long been an advocate of desalination. There are no water shortages in either of those places. Britain is an island. We are surrounded by water, yet through a lack of investment by the water companies, we still suffer with this problem. Over the past weekend, there have been 2 incidents of burst water mains in the drought-ridden south, resulting in a great loss of this precious commodity, which is an essential to life. Then, on Monday, while one of these events was being reported on BBC TV News, there was talk of the coming flood season, showing film of the extensive flooding experienced last year. What happened to all the water? Why wasn't it harvested and saved to offset future shortages? We still are relying on water extraction from rivers. Through this and previous times of drought, we have seen rivers drastically reduced in flow, some to the point where fish have needed to be rescued. I'm sure someone will be quick to say desalination is too expensive and floodwater would be contaminated, but what of the cost of crops that are dying due to a lack of water? We have a growing population that needs to be fed and watered. There is technology available which could make sure sufficient food and water is available. Surely it's time for change.
The next letter is from Hans Bromwich from Cowes and is headed Navel Gazing NHS Trust. When you're a boss, particularly a boss rewarded with an eye-wateringly high salary, you are expected to deliver by foreseeing and preempted difficulties with timely action, not preside over the same recurring issues year on year. Yes, there's been a pandemic, but Portsmouth University Hospital managed to deal with that alongside building new hospital wards, which are now finished and in use, in stark contrast to St Mary's Hospital, which by all account has yet to lay a single brick out of the money it's been awarded. Everyone is painfully aware that prices, particularly in the building trade, have skyrocketed over the last few years. So 3 years on, and only now getting round to thinking about spending its funding for improvements, the Isle of Wight NHS Trust will only buy a fraction of what it could have otherwise have done had it got its act together much earlier. Similarly to its health partner on the mainland. Prudent governance of taxpayers' money? I think not. And who is suffering while the NHS executives on the island all navel gaze? I will restrain myself from saying what I really think and simply respectfully ask the executives and the directors who sit on the Isle of Wight NHS Trust Board, do you all sleep well at night?
This is from Raymond James in Sandown. Absurd priorities from the NHS. Dear Editor, we appear to be spending precious taxpayers' money on completely the wrong things. Why does a small hospital require an executive director of communication, supported by a team of around 6 people? It's a complete absurdity. That's probably more staff than the whole editorial team at the Isle of Wight Observer, for heaven's sake. What crucial role do they perform that benefits patients? Spinning stories in the national media about drones flying in medicines doesn't fool anyone. It certainly does not fool the many islanders experiencing long queues, waiting outside their local Boots pharmacy, only to be told their prescription will be ready tomorrow. We certainly do not need a whole new PR industry as part of our NHS, whose raison d'etre is peddling vanity project stories in the media designed to pull a veil and smokescreen over services that are clearly failing many islanders. A drone with the capacity to carry a couple of packets of paracetamol is going to be inconsequential given the scale of the fundamentals that need addressing. So let's dispense with the NHS spin merchants and use the money more productively.
And the final letter is from Antonia Wharton. Stop. Okay. And the next letter is from Antonia Wharton Brooke and is entitled Thanks Whitelink. I would like to say a big thank you to Whitelink for their care of my 83-year-old mother. Her booking over to the Isle of Wight home from a trip to the mainland was on the incorrect day on the booking form, but they did everything to get her over to the island within 2 hours, which was so appreciated. And on Monday she returned to stay with me with delays of over an hour at Fishbourne, but the kind lady there put her in the front of the queue and she was able to cross with only 30-minute delay. Their customer care has been sublime, and as her anxious daughter I'm very, very grateful to them. As frequently there are negative reports about our ferries, I thought it'd be nice to send a positive report on how impressed I have been with them. Well done, Whitelink.
And here's a plea from Christina Ward at Gateshead, Tyne and Weir. Dear Islanders, I hope you can help me. It's a long shot, but my father lost his signet ring 32 years ago. He was with my older sister and brother-in-law. They took him on holiday a year after our mum died and had a day visit to the island. And on his return to the mainland, he realised his ring was missing. At the time, without technology we have today, it was accepted that it would never be found. My husband and I will be visiting your lovely island in September and staying in Shanklin. And it has been my dream for a long time to find the missing ring. It is gold with the inscription JS, which stands for James Scott. Yes, it is a mission impossible, but if I don't try, I will always regret it.
And that's goodbye from me, Tressa Davey.
And it's goodbye from Mike. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And now the In Touch programme follows, which is about wine and architecture courses. And who doesn't love a good glass of wine? Well, when we found out that Wine and Spirit Education Trust in London have their first blind teacher, Richard Lane, we thought we could go and sit in a class and get educated about the world of wine. We hear from Richard about his journey from being a student at WSET to becoming a wine educator, and we caught up with Harry Mead, who is himself blind and one of Richard's pupils. We asked Harry how it fared having a visually impaired teacher. We rightly hear a lot about how we live in a highly visual world, and part of that encompasses architecture and the built environment. Our reporter, Fern Lulham, paid a visit to a course called Architecture Beyond Sight at the Bartlett School of Architecture in London. The aim of the course is to include visually impaired people with the design and making of architecture from the very beginning. Fern even tried her hand at using some of the large power tools available in her classroom. The presenter is Peter Wight, the producer is Beth Hemmings, and the production coordinator is William Wolstenholme.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening.
It completely changed my life doing this course. Even my perception of my own disability was so strengthened.
Well, the course that student was referring to was a tailor-made syllabus for visually impaired people on architecture. But it could just as easily have been applied to both reports in tonight's programme. Later on, we're going to be hearing more about what blind and partially sighted people could bring to the design of buildings and the outside environment. But we start with the visually impaired man who's the first totally blind student now to be teaching the Wine and Spirits Education Trust's prestigious courses on wine appreciation. Richard Lane always knew he enjoyed his wine, but after something of a light bulb moment, he realised he had a palate which, with a bit more education, could open up a real opportunity. So, a few days ago, I went down to the WSET's headquarters near London Bridge to observe Richard in action.
So, we've got our two Syrah from Cote Rôtie, wine number 5, and our Shiraz from Australia. Let's look at them individually. What else are we getting that smells secondary?
There's almost a dampness to it.
Wet leaves. Wet leaves. Wet leaves is a good note. I know it sounds funny, what do I mean wet leaves? But yes, there's a slight damp. You know when you have a walk in the autumn, well, a humid autumn morning, and it smells a bit damp? I'm expecting some intensity of colour here, guys. Please guide me through the appearance of this wine. Deep ruby. Deep ruby. Thank you. So, Peter, today you heard a bit of me teaching, and this was what's called level 2, which is sort of fairly introductory. And it's aimed at people who either love wine and just as consumers and want to know a bit more about it, or actually they're there for a business reason because they need to know about wines and grape varieties and wine styles in their careers in the hospitality sector.
So what were the initial challenges for you as a blind person, maybe partly as a student, but particularly as the idea of teaching?
Especially, I think, from the perspective of the teacher, I've got to really be on top of my game because I must know what the students are looking at. Because however much we say wine is about what we're smelling and what we're tasting, we live in a visual world. We have 30 PowerPoint slides per class on average. So I've got to know the content of those slides. I've got to direct my students to parts of the slide, maps particularly. So I've got access to work funding, an assistant when I'm in the classroom, which helps with moving on the PowerPoint slides, making sure the students are getting the wine bottles passed around, all that sort of thing. The resources team bring in the wines. So my job really is just to sit back and enjoy the class, knowing, particularly with my assistant, that I haven't got to stress about moving the clicker on and which slide are we on, because that's taken care of because I rehearse with my assistant, and I've got all the equivalent notes from the PowerPoints being fed to me through jaws in my ear. And when we get to the wines that we taste, first thing we do is, okay, guys, what's the appearance?
Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask you. I mean, are they effectively telling you
Kind of. I think the students are playing an important role in confirming the appearance of the wine according to the notes that I've got on my computer that Jules is reading to me in my ear. So I show these wines when I teach these classes all the time. I know these wines, and my sighted colleagues have been through all the wines with me, so I know what they should look like. And the students are great about it, and I joke about it, particularly as when it comes to assessing white wines, most of the time students write pale lemon. And when I did my diploma as a student, I said, how am I going to write the appearance of the wines? And some of my educators said, just write pale lemon, you'll be fine.
I'm going to ask you a question that I could ask any visually impaired teacher, I suppose, is that you had a class of, I think it was 23 this morning. That was what was on the tin. Anyway, how do you cope with that? I mean, do you know all their names? Do you remember all their voices? Because you were asking them all questions and answers were coming up from all over the room.
Right. Do I know all their names in a class of 23? You've got to be kidding.
Right.
But with today, I mean, obviously I introduced myself, and I've also explained, of course, that I'm blind. They probably see me come in with my white cane, so thinking, hey, what's going on here? And they're great about it. And of course, some of their names I get to know, absolutely. And it's not favouritism at all, because I'm not going to remember 23 names. Haven't yet experienced any kind of negativity about the fact that I'm blind. I think they just appreciate, I hope, having a teacher who's clear about what he's saying and helping them in their journey.
I was a bit surprised at first, actually, and then I thought it was amazing because obviously such a huge part is the tasting and the scent, which I imagine are even more heightened when you don't have your sight. So actually then we've learnt so many things about the notes in the wine that maybe I wouldn't have picked up before, which obviously Richard has such an amazing detail for.
Definitely haven't lost out on not being able to visualise with him. I feel he's probably got a bit of an advantage on his nose over mine. But overall, no, we're not missing out on anything, in my opinion.
Definitely a bit of our friend prune. These wines are so healthy, aren't they, with all these prunes in them. We've shown different coat rotis on this course where, honestly, I smell the wine and I think of bacon frazzles. You do literally get that sometimes. Let's taste it.
A lot is often made of by which I mean blind people, using our other senses and making the most of those senses. Has this been a factor for you? I mean, do you think you have any advantages over sighted teachers?
I think generally no. And I certainly I'm not what's called a super taster because I'm blind. The old thing about, you're blind, therefore everything else is enhanced. No. I think I'm an averagely good taster, quite an experienced one now. I'm teaching, which is great. I think where the non-visual bit comes in that's helpful is that I'm not put off by a lot of the marketing blurb that goes on with flashy wine labels and stuff. I'm not exposed to that.
Well, one of the 23 students on Richard's course this morning has been Harry Mead, who is himself blind. I mean, Harry, what drew you to this course?
Well, you had a part to play in that, Peter.
Really?
Yes. I am a regular listener to In Touch, and you were interviewing Richard, and you said one of your closing comments was Richard has just become an educator in wines for the WSET, or words to that effect.
And so, I mean, in a way, you've got perhaps nothing to compare it with, but I'm just wondering how it is to have a teacher as yourself blind. Does that give you confidence, or does it actually make no difference whatsoever?
Well, to me, it gave me huge confidence because I was able to speak with Richard before the course started to be reassured that the whole process was going to work for me. I mean, I've had all my course materials in an accessible format. They gave me a download link and I was able to download the book. And I can use JAWS to read it in Word. I get Richard's slides in advance. I get the wine tasting notes in advance, so I know what the wines are going to be. And so, to me, it was greatly reassuring.
Harry Mead, thank you very much indeed. Just one thing, Richard. I've spent the morning listening to you or your assistant pouring glasses of wine. I don't think I ought to go without trying something, do I? Would you want to recommend anything?
Well, I had a feeling you might ask me that, Peter. So, there was a rather interesting Syrah from Cote Rôtie. I think we've got a little drop here. There you go, Pete.
Two blind people trying to pass each other glasses of wine is a notoriously risky business. Richard, lovely to see you again.
Cheers, Peter.
Cheers.
Enjoy.
Cheers. You're not going to ask me to spit this back, are you?
Down the hatch, Peter, down the hatch.
Well, there are worse ways of making a living, and there are some just as good. Could, for example, blind or partially sighted people take up the profession of architect? Well, one or two already have, but as I picked my way across the Media City site this morning, I could have wished there were rather more of them. But how realistic is it as a profession for us? Well, a course called Architecture Beyond Sight may provide some of the answers. It's the result of a collaboration between the Bartlett School of Architecture in London and the Disordinary Architecture Project. It aims to harness the creative talents of blind people and build their confidence to become more influential in the design of the built environment. Well, our reporter Fern Lulham went along not just to observe, but to get involved herself with last week's course.
Hitting stop on this machine does not stop the blade immediately. You just have to remember that, all right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, that is the sound of me, a clumsy blind woman, preparing to slice a piece of wood in two using an electric bandsaw. Find out how that went later. First, I thought I'd track down the people responsible for this situation, so I found two of the course organisers.
My name is Mandy Redfuss-Rowe and I am a course tutor on the Architecture Beyond Sight course.
And my name is Joss Boys and I'm co-director of the Disordinary Architecture Project.
The aim of the general project is to engage with architectural students and architects to get them to consider access in a creative way, as a creative starting point as opposed to a negative tick box. We met the Dean of the Bartlett School of Architecture at the time, Professor Alan Penn, who just said, can blind people be architects? He said, I feel that architecture is highly, highly visual, and Zoe and I, who both vision impaired, and we went, yes, of course, we should be architects.
For me, one of the most important things is how you actually change the character of architectural education and the practice. So architecture ought to be taught differently. It's not just simply that it would enable blind and visually impaired people to study and be part of the architectural profession, but also it really changed the shape of the built environment, because it would take all our bodily experiences into account. It wouldn't just concentrate on what you see.
Back in the workshop, one of the course tutors, Duncan Mearding, a professional blind designer and maker, was assessing how I measured up.
So now, if you grab this fence that's over here, I'm just going to grab your hand, and you pull it across, and then hear that. So do you want to get it to like 120 for me?
Sure,
yeah.
Okay, I think I can do that. 134. Oh, no, it went too far.
While I get to grips with the talking tape measure, meet Kieran Saeed, a current participant in Architecture Beyond Sight, who is also new to the wonderful whirring world of power tools.
I want to make it so that architects of the future understand about accessibility. In order for me to make them understand, I have to understand their world. And then my secondary aim is maybe I will want to go into do architecture school. I'm an older person, but that doesn't necessarily mean that as an older woman I shouldn't do it. I'm also Asian and the world of architecture is predominantly white, so to try and break those barriers down, and somebody who's visually impaired and female, why not? I'm totally blind, I'm using these massive blades, it feels terrifying. About third or fourth time on I was using this machine by myself, and I just thought, this is such an exhilarating experience. I can do this, and I think that's been the most exciting part of the course. And once I understand that concept of building, I can then transfer that concept into talking to other people about how to make things accessible, and they can't bamboozle me with the language of we've built it this way and we can do. Actually, no, I've done it too. I've used a machine, I've done a bandsaw, I know what I'm talking about now. I've empowered myself.
We've got certain areas your hands can go on the machine. This is sort of the danger zone, and then you need to pick up the push stick. You don't do the old feel out with your hands to try and find things, because you're in a dangerous environment. The push stick is like a single finger with a piece of dowel with a piece of rubber on the end.
So it's that instead of your finger that gets chopped. Okay.
Do you want to have a go before the machine's running?
I think, that would be good.
This Instagram generation doesn't help, because everything's about what it looks like rather than necessarily how it functions or what the other sensory experiences are.
That's Poppy Levison, a past participant of the course who has gone on to become a professional blind architect. She told me about some of the challenges blind architects face.
None of the software that we use has any accessibility, and they actively close down things like voiceover. And then there's also attitudes. I have been told that I would never get a job, and then I've now got a job.
And is architecture something you've always been interested in?
I was very much brought up with an attitude of, if you want to do something, we'll find a way of doing it. I was also registered visually impaired back then. I'm now registered blind. So it was hard being at university and having that transition of losing sight, and it made me have to reassess the situation. But then the amount of quiet confidence that doing this course gave me, meeting people that are already in the industry in various different ways. It sounds really corny to say, but it completely changed my life doing this course. Even my perception of my own disability was so strengthened by coming on the course. It was one of the first times I actually properly accepted having people help me with things, and it wasn't seen as a negative. It was seen as a well, we know you could do it, but let's make it easier for you, let's make it work for you. And so it's kind of hard to describe quite how much of an impact it's had.
And what about the practical side? How did you feel about using these big machines that are all over the place here?
Having someone like Duncan teaching you, he gave you so much confidence because he was the same as you. It's one thing being told by a sighted person, oh no, don't worry, you can do it. But when you're being taught by a blind person who's like, I can do it, you can do it. It's a whole different thing.
Talking about sort of attitudes around disability, we know that surveys do indicate that some employers are still reluctant to employ blind people. Have you experienced this in the architecture industry at all?
I don't think there's enough support for employers to know what's out there. I had my access to work appointment and they were like, we're going to give you a magnifying glass. And I was like, that's not going to help me. The Royal Institute for British Architects and the Architects Registration Board both need to be doing a lot more about education about disabled people. We need to have mandatory training about disabled people as at architecture school, both from a design point of view, but also that these people might be your colleagues. And then if people aren't seeing people in the industry either, it's no wonder that people don't think about us. It's not really relevant because there's no one here, seemingly.
And so it was suddenly the moment of truth. Could I cut it as a budding blind architect?
I'm going to do my best.
The machine is live now.
Right.
So now you can turn it on. I'm right here.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay. Oh, we're going through.
Right. So now you need to turn it off by clicking that E stop.
Always remember to turn the machine off. Still, I'd successfully chopped a piece of wood while keeping all my fingers intact, and the other students seemed to have gained some firm foundations that they could now build on. Everyone was happy.
Fern Lulham reporting there. But Brian Rigg spoke for many listeners, and I can't pretend to be neutral on this one myself, when he emailed us this.
I've just heard on the radio that the classified football results are no longer to be broadcast on the BBC Radio 5 Live programme at 5 p.m. on Saturdays, and we've been told to consult their website. I despair. Being totally blind, I often have problems with the websites, and surely the 5 minutes or so taken up by the results could still be included.
Well, we're far from the only BBC programme to have picked this up. PM, Broadcasting House.
Silly Billies 1, Common Sense 0, Tea Time Traditionalist 0, Radio Rangers 0. BBC One.
And it made it onto Pick of the Week as well. So what is the explanation? We sought an interview and were told we're politely declining all interviews on this at this point. Well, In Touch can offer you Sports Report presenter Mark Chapman's own explanation on last Saturday's edition.
And I will bring you all of the day's football results from across the UK, just like last weekend. If you want them right now, they're available on the BBC Sport website and app, and that is fully accessible with audio description.
The problem is, of course, that it's not just like last weekend, because the results were read sprinkled throughout the programme rather than in one place. And as Brian explains, the problem quite a lot of blind people have just getting to the website. Well, in a statement to us, a BBC spokesperson did point out that BBC Sport still provides a full classified service on Final Score on BBC One. We shall continue to ask for a direct interview, specifically addressing the concerns of In Touch listeners. You can email In Touch at bbc.co.uk. You can leave voice messages on 0161 836 1338. From me, Peter Wight, producer Beth Hemmings and studio manager Nat Stokes. Goodbye.
Scaffolding and skips news. Week commencing 22nd of August 2022, Newport area. The Old Mill, St Cross Lane. 127 to 128 Superdrug High Street. Isle of Wight County Club, 18A St James's Square. Mill House, Upper Shide, Blackwater Road. 8 St James's Street.
Ride, 10 Wyndham House, Melville Street. Jack's, 75 Union Street. 21A and 22A, Cross Street. And 40 Union Street, that's the rear, Church Lane.
Ride skips, The Cottage, Upper Green Road, St Helens.
Seaview, Warren Boats, Blewett Avenue.
In Ventnor, Elizabeth House, that's on Pier Street and Hamborough Road.
And Sandown area, 4 Avenue Road.
Finally, Yarmouth area, Langard, St James's Street.